Tonight on the Black Channel, a reminder of how far we've come and that when you stay firm in your beliefs, the rest of the world will have to follow you. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from all around the world, and welcome to the home, the haven, the stronghold, the super fortress of intelligent black thought. 15 years and counting. We are the Black Media. This is the Black Channel. I am the Black Authority, and all of you are listening live to the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. Join us. Because on tonight's program here, we have a lot of ground to cover, and as I was stating here for the past couple of weeks, if we get numbers similar to what we had last night, so we had over 4,000 people in here last night. If we get numbers along those lines there, then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and see if we can bring something special to the table in this regard. That's an important thing for us, because when we began this journey a decade and a half ago, people were saying all kinds of things. They were saying you're crazy. They were saying you're stupid. They were saying this pro-black stuff. Remember that? Very derisive. About this pro-black stuff. That's what they were saying back then, but we didn't bend, we didn't break, and we didn't compromise. And we stayed consistent. And as I told you back then, once you get that critical mass of people, then you start to see everything change, and all of a sudden the folks were telling you crazy and stupid. Now they're all sitting there saying, are you really going to follow through with this? Now, if you remember here a couple weeks ago, Matt Walsh was falsely, as I said then, declaring the end of reparations. Remember all that? Oh, well, won't be seeing that anymore. And yeah, I told you, yeah, Matt, you're not just a white supremacist, you're also completely wrong as usual. Well, I'll show you here the article on your screen. It's from the LA Times today. Today's LA Times. And I'm bringing this up here because when people tell you about what we haven't had an effect on, I want you to understand this is what they're saying, and we're going to cover this tonight. From Erica D. Smith and Anita Shabria, it's hard for some Californians, maybe many, to wrap their heads around the idea that the homelessness we see on our streets has any connection to slavery. We are California, after all, supposedly a free state. We like to think of ourselves as far away in both ideology and from the brutality that built the South, although slavery was common during our gold rush era, ensnaring not only black people, but also Latinos and indigenous communities. This is why we warn you consistently that there's a reason why the corporate media cannot be allowed to set the narrative, and that even what you're noticing now is they're putting reparations. Everybody's from these phony lawmakers up here on your screen, from these phonies to the media outlets themselves. When you see that word reparations now, this is the same old game. They've shifted it. You see, with our parents, what they did was they went from never wanting to say black to all of a sudden they were okay saying black everywhere. And as soon as they said the word black, then they detoured the discussion somewhere else. So our parents and grandparents thought that they had made progress. Well, these folks are willing to say the words black. Hey, they're willing to say the word racism. And that if they were willing to say racism, well, they said racism. So we've made progress because you got white society to say the word racism. Hell, to admit and concede that racism exists. And as I've taught you now for over a decade and a half, they have no problem acknowledging racism so long as it's not actually gonna change anything. So if they can just say, okay, racism exists, and then you go back to picking the cotton, that's what they're looking for. Right there. So now that we're saying reparations, what do you know? As I've told you for years and years now, rinse and repeat, white supremacy only has one playbook. They're now saying the word reparations in their media outlets. They're saying the word just so long as it doesn't actually change anything. And then here comes the bait and switch and the swerve. So, as usual, they say black, but they're making sure it's not only black people now. It's not just black people. So we all know where this goes when they pull this little stunt. They go on to say, but researchers at the respected by whom? UC San Francisco Benioff Homelessness and Housing Initiative have no doubts that the historical trafficking of 12 million black people to American shores is directly tied to the black poverty and pain on our West Coast streets today. Quote, the overrepresentation of black people in the homeless population arises from 400 years of anti-black racism entrenched in the structures, institutions, ideologies, and social norms of American life, starting with slavery, the researchers said in a study released recently. Notice they say black and then swerve. But then when they start talking about what justifies reparations, the only word you hear from then on in is black. So they'll keep banging black, 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 black. And then right when we get to the solution part, swerve. They scream black and you're still stuck on back when they said the word black. And then they hit you with the swerve. It goes on to say here, that's a fierce bit of truth-telling, not really, that may shock those who haven't been paying attention to discussions about reparations, the need to make right the wrongs of systemic racism and compensate black people for the lasting harms of slavery. But for those who followed California's reparations task force and for most black Americans, the findings are hardly groundbreaking. Slavery turned into Jim Crow laws and lynchings in the South. To escape, now by the way, they're following what we said here in the new black media. They're following what I've been saying on my programs for the longest time. Not just the idea that, quote, slavery continues, but the real thing is understanding that it morphed. So you can't stop at the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments. You have to understand that once you pass the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments, here they come with the, let's go ahead and switch it up. We will institute the same structure. We're just going to go ahead and evolve it a little bit, but the effect will be the same. We're at the top, all our privileges in place, unassailable wealth. You're at the bottom, permanently impoverished, with no rights. To escape, black people fled to the north and, yes, the west. Yet, upon their arrival, redlining and a refusal to invest in black communities led to generations of state-enforced poverty and a lack of housing that builds wealth and stability. Well, you're actually leaving out servitude and other things right there. You're leaving out collaborating with the slave states. You're actually leaving that part out there, but okay, let's go ahead and just skip over that. You're going to talk about the history there, and we're just going to skip over that part. All right. Poverty became an excuse for surveillance and criminalization, including violent over-policing, child protective services breaking apart families, and the mass incarceration of black men. And here we are, with black Americans in such an economically and socially precarious situation that a single misfortune can end in homelessness. Quote, this didn't just happen by accident, and it didn't just happen because there were a few bad people. This was organized, said Margot Cashel, head of the Benioff Initiative and one of the authors of the study, which recommends that reparations in the form of cash payments are needed to combat homelessness in the black community. This is the LA Times. This was put up today. Donald Trump winning the South Carolina primary over Nikki Haley. Joe Biden realizing his numbers are not getting any better. And as I told you all here, as we get closer to the election, 2024, you're having cell phone blackouts. You're having Donald Trump all of a sudden is an integrationist. Donald Trump all of a sudden doesn't like racists. Kamala Harris is trying they've told her, baby, you got no credibility among black people. You need to just speak to women because you have no credibility among black people. So Kamala Harris is first she's talking about abortion. Now she's talking about in vitro fertilization. She doesn't know whether to drop the load or run and cry. So are we here to protect the right to kill the babies, or do we need to have as many of them as we possibly can? She doesn't know which way to go. She's pro-abortion. Now she immediately this week is now pro-life. Amazing. Amazing. Now they're telling you in the LA Times that reparations in the form of cash payments are needed to, wait a minute, combat homelessness in the black community. So now we're saying it's a homeless issue. Do you get that part? Do you get where that gets a little tricky there when you say it's a homeless issue? By the way, our numbers are going up here, so if we get over 4,000, we'll have something to show you. They go on to say here that this is the strongest case for reparations, right? Wrong. This is Jason Black. Wrong. No, it's not. This is the strongest case for reparations, right? She said. That feels like a conversation that, if we are being honest, we need to have. Well, no, that's not the argument for reparations, actually. It's a whole lot bigger and more expansive, so no. It's certainly the case being made by California's Legislative Black Caucus. This sad parade of snake oil salesmen and saleswomen. But all right. Last week, the members gathered in Sacramento for a news conference to formally announce 14 bills they plan to introduce and back this year in hopes of turning the recommendations of California's Reparations Task Force into actionable laws and policies. Quote, this is a massive undertaking, so you can expect a package year after year until our work is done, explained Assemblymember Lori D. Wilson, Suisun City, chair of the Legislative Black Caucus. Quote, some will be systemic in nature. Some will require direct investments in people or communities. All will require the support of the legislature and the governor. One of the initial bills calls for a formal apology from the state. Another demands compensation for land seized in racist acts of eminent domain like Bruce's Beach. And another would ban involuntary servitude, namely in prisons where inmates are often forced to do work for pennies an hour. All draw a direct line between the dire conditions currently faced by millions of black Californians, including homelessness and housing insecurity, and the baggage of decades of discrimination. The members of the Legislative Black Caucus were clearly tired and unmoved by the many excuses that have been given for why reparations can't become a reality. Now, in all honesty here, part of this is reparations. Part of it is when you talk about restoring our land that was taken from us. Now, that is reparative justice. That's reparations right there. You can make your apology in the form of turning back over that deed and cutting the check. So it's like, yeah, you can save the spoken apology if you want to there. You can just turn over intangibles. So that part right there, that goes. Now that one will fly. That's perfectly fine right there. As a matter of fact, if you hammered on that one alone, that would be mega if you hammered on that one alone. Quote, our state needs to address those harms, Wilson said matter-of-factly. America's wealth was built by the forced labor of trafficked African people and their descendants. Well, their descendants. All of a sudden, they got new language in their vocabularies. All of a sudden, the language of the politicians sounds frighteningly similar to what we've heard here. Not just the media people anymore, but now you got politicians using the same language. Let's see if the policies follow the language. African people and their descendants who were all bought and sold as commodities, said Assemblymember Akila Weber Lamesa. America's government at all levels allowed or participated in exploiting, abusing, terrorizing, and murdering people of African descent so that mostly white Americans could profit from their enslavement. This legislature allowed slave owners to bring their enslaved properties so long as they arrived here before 1850, said Assemblymember Reggie Jones Sawyer of Los Angeles, scoffing at the frequent pushback that reparations aren't owed because California wasn't a slave state. Quote, then the California State Supreme Court said slave owners are okay as long as they only stay temporarily. That's not freedom. So all of a sudden, folks are cracking open their history books and actually investigating these things and not letting folks use trick bag language and not letting white supremacists or suspected white supremacists sit up here and tell you, well, California wasn't a slave. This place wasn't a slave state. That wouldn't allow. Folks are actually opening the books and looking and saying, oh, actually, you're lying. Either you're lying or you're stupid or you're both. It doesn't matter what you're saying is false. All of a sudden now, folks are actually digging up the facts. Survivors of the Jewish Holocaust were celebrated for doing that. We've been told we don't need to investigate that. Or if you do, now that you're doing that, they're saying, oh, that's ancient history now. That's what that's what Matt Walsh was saying. Now it's ancient history. Now that we're actually taking a look into it and seeing, hey, we're doing what the Jewish Holocaust survivors did. Every time you guys lie, we're going to bring the documentation. Now all of a sudden, oh, that's ancient history. No, it's not. But it was perhaps Assemblymember Corey Jackson of Paris who best summed up the case for reparations. The same case made by Cushell and borne out by her team's research. Quote, we have to understand that the era of the colorblind society is a failure, he said. If you can't see us, you can't serve us. I want to read the next two paragraphs and then we're going to stop. The fantasy that race doesn't matter, embedded into law via Proposition 209, is one reason why California has been spinning its wheels on homelessness. It likely will continue to do so, spending billions of tax dollars until lawmakers and the governor start addressing the causes and policy decisions affecting those most likely to end up on the street. While black people make up about 7% of California's population, they represent 26% of those without permanent homes, according to data pulled from the California statewide study of people experiencing homelessness. This will come as no surprise to anyone who has taken a stroll through Skid Row. I remember my first time going down through Skid Row. Not just going to California, but going through Skid Row specifically. I remember the first time that I did that, and it's a sobering experience. To see how large it is, it's a sobering experience to see how open it is, and it's a sobering experience to see that it's overwhelmingly black. As the black population has been drilled down, you go to Skid Row and it's like, wait a minute, I found the black population. I found them. Didn't take me very long. I found them. And then you realize you can't be 7% of the population, but over a quarter of the homeless, if that's not engineered. That's not accidental. That's engineered. That is the system working properly. That is not a flaw in the system. That's a feature. The system is not working properly if you're not in dire straits. And we can talk about California, but it's the same everywhere else you go. It's the same everywhere else. And that's the reason I'm talking about this tonight. Because a decade ago, I set out on a venture to answer a question. Why are we the poorest people in America and the world? Why? Nobody else was doing it. Nobody else was asking it. It was too wonky. It was too erudite. It was too nerdy. It was too academic, but I did it. And people doubted that folks would be interested in it. And we showed that they were wrong about that on a mammoth level. I haven't been sitting on my hands, and I haven't been resting on my laurels. I've been investigating this further, and I wanted to show you all tonight what I've come up with here. So, for all of you who are joining us live, I would like to show you some of our work.
We've grown up in a sea of white supremacy. I think that what slavery did for us is it created this sense that the white man's ice is colder and that we want to have a seat at that table and not a seat at our own table.
At LSU, we never had a conversation about the business of sports, about the money that's made. They don't want to have that conversation because you have that conversation, that's what creates movements.
Most people are miserable. They're depressed. They hate their life. Why do people hate their life? Because they're doing things they hate. Because they feel like they're scared they can't pay a bill.
George Soros probably said it the best, and he said that when he was broke, nobody listened to him, but when he broke the banks over in Europe, he was able to start talking to the heads of state.
Are you listening? Is this thing on?
Let me tell you about the record industry. You walk into a major company, they got some of the prettiest women. You want some Perrier, you want some water. What do you need? Once they got you, it was just like that. What have you done for me lately?
A lot of those athletes in college, 99% of them will not make it to that high level NBA, WNBA, NFL.
If an artist is not a puppet, he's not going to be pulled to the top. It's the bottom line.
Friends is friends and business is business. Never intertwining.
Brothers and sisters from around the world, the last time I came to you a decade ago, I told you if you're black and broke, it's time to wake up. This time, if you're black and broke, it's time to get to work. Before tonight's broadcast is over, the crowdfunding will be open. And as you see, I've got an all-star lineup. I've pulled out the heavy guns. And this is coming from Mr. Uncompromising himself. You ain't seen nothing. Let me tell you, you ain't seen nothing. To go ahead and briefly review this, before Kaepernick, there was Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. So imagine Jason Black and Abdul Rauf sitting down discussing not simply racism, but how it is that when he was in college in the NBA, how they messed him out of the money. I'm getting back to the economics. I am focusing purely on the economics of it. How in the world did that happen? And if that wasn't enough, then I go speak to Muggsy Bogues, Mr. Space Jam, and we talk about the exact same thing. how it is that the NCAA generates billions of dollars, but the athletes are prohibited. And even with some of the opening up of name, image, likeness, there's still plenty of obstacles in the way. I speak to Virgil Roberts, former executive of Solar Records, next to Dick Griffey himself. Shalimar Kenny Edmonds, you know the pedigree. And as you saw from the very beginning, he comes out the gate swinging. He didn't have to be prompted for that. He tells you we live in a sea of white supremacy. Those are not my words. Those are his. We speak to my man Jadakiss. I don't know if he's done an interview I don't think he's done an interview like this anywhere. I've gone looking, and let me tell you, it wasn't easy. Shout out to my man Samuel Alarape. It wasn't easy, but we landed Jadakiss. When I tell you I'm not messing around, I mean I'm not fooling around. We talked to Teddy Riley. Now, if you want to talk about a producer's producer, if you want to talk about a musician's musician, this man's got so many platinum records, he could open a record store. And I just gave you a little snippet right there. Let me tell y'all, when it comes to race and everything else, you ain't heard nothing yet. This man, I want to show you a clip of him sitting there telling you, by the way, if they don't pull you up, you ain't gonna make it. That's the bottom line. If they don't give it to you, if they don't pull you up to the top, you never make it. Now, is there anybody in the business more qualified to speak on that than him? I'll let you go ahead and try to figure that out. Go ahead and keep naming names. And by the way, that's not everyone. Those are just the ones I chose for the trailer. By the way, everybody, that's not everyone. So I suppose you're going to have to check out the film to see everybody there. But by the way, that's not everyone. Because now I want to take it to the next level. I said over a decade ago, they hate us because we are black, but they're able to victimize us because we are poor, and focusing on politics simply for the sake of politics, and focusing on education simply for the sake of, quote, education and student loans. Focusing on these things is a red herring. Until we get economic parity, all these other things that we complain about, from crime to police brutality to healthcare, all those other things, you're going to be a sitting duck and a victim for them, and there'll be nothing you can do. That's the problem. So I set out here to do my best. I set out to do my best to address this to the best of my ability, which is what I've done. So what I'm doing here tonight is letting you all know that it's going to be available. And when it is, you all are invited to join us. It's an election year, and I want to make sure that people's eyes are clearly focused on what the issue is. And all the folk who are on the same page with us about what the issue is. It's not about your religion. It's not about education. It is not about health care. It's about economics. It's about the money. And that's why the conversation of reparations, when they try to veer off into something else, bring it back over here. The issue is economics. I started the Black channel so that we could remain clearly and firmly focused on that reality. I started it for that reason. And I'm showing you all that I am still on the job for it. This documentary is over 4 years in the making. I started on this one back in 2020. I started on it back then. I know you all have seen, a lot of you probably got tired of seeing that clock. I've been working on it the whole time. I've been working on it the entire time. I never stopped working on it, and now I think I've gone ahead and shown you all the proof of what it is. Now you'll have your opportunity to join us also. Before I get started here, I want to say that I want to thank all of you for your support over all this time. Because what people would tell you is that folks are not interested in this. That's what they would tell you. They would have you believe that folks were not interested. They would have you believe that this isn't what they want. They would have you believe that we're interested in talking about homelessness and talking about, quote, housing, without ever actually dealing with what the problem is. The lack of, quote, housing is because of the lack of economics. And we have been engineered and maneuvered and forced into these situations. That's the problem. And if we will not say it exactly the way it is and will not call it for exactly what it is, that's how you end up stuck where we are. With politicians saying things that sound cute and don't actually change anything. And that's why we are not falling for that. We're going to go ahead here and open it up for you all. If you're black and broke, it's time to get to work. Once again, I want to thank all of you for being a part of this, everyone who is here and everyone who is going to be. I understand that a lot of you have a lot going on yourselves, and that's not lost on me. That's not lost on me at all. I've respected that all this time, and I've tried to make sure that I have upheld your faith in what we do here. So now you're going to have your opportunity to join us as well. We're going to go ahead and put the link up here in a moment so you all can go ahead and join that too. The crowdfunding is going to be beginning here now. And by the way, we're going to be seeing, I'm going to have it done here for 2024, looking at releasing here in the fall is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at releasing in the fall. That's what we're looking at now. The fall of 2024 is when we're looking for that to go out. We're going to go ahead and take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, we'll be discussing this and more. This is The Black Channel.
Hello, my name is Steve Burgess, and I'm the author of this book, Guidelines for the Successful Student, a closer look at parenting your school-aged child. In this book, I've explained the role of the parent and the student in addition to what accommodations, procedures, rewards and consequences and expectations that need to be in place to ensure student success from primary to high school. This book is available on Amazon.com. For more information, please visit my link tree at Easy One-on-One, and to access my latest podcast, A Teaching Moment with Mr. B. Thank you all for listening.
A white supremacist assassin seeks revenge. Corrupt FBI agents with evil intentions. Dangerous black collaborators dedicated to treason. Occam Jeffers must defeat them all and somehow survive. One misstep and he's a dead man. Join Occam Jeffers as he looks the devil in his blue eyes and tells him, Black first. A sequel to the underground hit War of the Heart, Spirit of 1811 Publishing presents God Love Us, on sale at Amazon. Pre-order and save today. Visit spiritofo1811publishing.com and show your love.
Order yours today. To experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' natural body butter with skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slavery and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. And we're going to cover a few more things here before we open up the telephone lines. We're going to cover a few more things here. I want to go over the next part of what they were talking about here. Because while they're letting you know that they're keeping an eye on us, see if they're actually talking about the issue in its totality. What of the roughly 75% of those black unhoused Californians who are men, many of whom came directly out of a long stay in county jail or a prison stint? They were released with maybe a couple $100 from the state and few, if any, options other than a quick slide into homelessness. It's a demographic Cushell points out should be easier to help because we know who they are and where they are before they become unhoused. We just choose not to do it. What of the 80% of the black people living on our streets who simply lost their housing? They were hit with an illness, for example, a job loss, discrimination from landlords, unwilling to rent to those with poor credit or complicated histories. Half are over the age of 50, facing their senior years without shelter. Did you get that? Half are over the age of 50. Over the age of 50. Now, if that's not predatory, I don't know what in the world would be. Over the age of 50. That's not a joke. When they say that when I'm telling you that that's race war, that's what I mean. I mean that. I mean that. They're saying, look here, we got an opportunity to go at you. You will not be allowed the opportunity. When you go into your declining years, you won't be allowed to do things differently. You won't be allowed to do that. For a lot of folks out there who told themselves, we're old. We're old, and we'll see if we can go ahead and go into our declining years. And it's like, by the way, do you realize they're focusing on you first? Do you realize that they're focusing on you first? That was why I said if you're black and broke here, that's why I focused on these things. I didn't have to be a resident of California to understand what we were dealing with here. I didn't have to be a resident there to understand, by the way, I see what they're doing. I see what they're doing. All right, there is the link in the chat room. Want you all to go ahead and test that out. Make sure that works properly. Please go ahead and you all can go ahead and check it out and make sure it works properly. For those of you who are just now joining us, we have begun the crowdfunding for my film here. Truthfully, I say 4 years in the making. Truthfully, it's been over a decade in the making. I talked to some folks you never thought we'd be able to speak to before now, just to show you how serious I am about this. We don't just go into words, we go into the numbers. I ask them specific questions about how to do what they do. These are questions you've never heard asked on The Breakfast Club. You've never heard them asked on Hot 97. You've never heard these questions asked anywhere else. These are not fanboy questions, and it's not just about, hey, are black folk poor? Could you sit down and talk to Virgil Roberts about how to do what he did at Solar Records? Thank you very much. They're saying that it works. So, folks, let's go ahead and send the world a message. Let's send everybody a message starting here tonight that we understand what the issue really is. I've put my work into it. I've lent my strength to the cause. Now it's your chance. If you could sit down with Teddy Riley and ask him how to do what he did, I did. If you could sit down and ask Dame Dash, not just questions about where he's been. Hey, how do I do what you did? I did. Alonzo Williams. You want to know about NWA? You want to know how that got set up? You want to know how that worked? If you could sit down and ask him, hey, by the way, how did you do that? I did. If you could sit down and ask Jadakiss, I did. If you want to know the real about what happens in the NCAA and where the money is made or where it isn't, by the way, if you could ask them, well, I did. And by the way, that's not even everybody who was in the trailer. That's not even everyone. Not even everyone. I see we got some more folks who've joined us here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give you all an encore of it. And then we're going to open up the telephone lines. We're going to go ahead and give you an encore for it and then open up the telephone lines. I know you've all been waiting for a long time. I know you've been waiting a long time, but I think it was well worth the wait.
We've grown up in a sea of white supremacy. I think that what slavery did for us is it created this sense that the white man's ice is colder and that we want to have a seat at that table and not a seat at our own table.
At LSU, we never had a conversation about the business of sports, about the money that's made. They don't want to have that conversation because you have that conversation, that's what creates movements.
Most people are miserable. They're depressed. They hate their life. Why do people hate their life? Because they're doing things they hate. Because they feel like they're scared they can't pay a bill.
George Soros probably said it the best, and he said that when he was broke, nobody listened to him, but when he broke the banks over in Europe, he was able to start talking to the heads of state.
Are you listening? Is this thing on?
Let me tell you about the record industry. You walk into a major company, they got some of the prettiest women. You want some Perrier, you want some water. What do you need? Once they got you, it was just like that. What have you done for me lately?
A lot of those athletes in college, 99% of them will not make it to that high level NBA, WNBA, NFL.
If an artist is not a puppet, he's not going to be pulled to the top. It's the bottom line.
Friends is friends and business is business. Never intertwining.
The culmination of my life's work, everything that I've been working for the last quarter of a century, to get rid of the gatekeepers and to bring you reliable information you can receive nowhere else directly from the most reliable sources. I want to thank each and every one of you who started this journey with me over a decade and a half ago, and a decade ago when I was asking what it was I really wanted to do. I wanted to make a documentary about Black entrepreneurship. They tell you that all we're interested in is tennis shoes and cell phones, and that's a lie, and we've proven it. I did this not just for us today. I did this for our children and our heirs. Just like we go back and talk about Sam Greenlee. Just like we go back and talk about the spook who sat by the door. One day, your children and grandchildren are going to be looking at this. Some of them may never even heard of me. Many of you may not even be listeners by the time you hear this. They'll pick up the DVD one day and hear these things from them. Direct information, much more than we can go into here, but from a source you can actually rely on for it. So let me tell you, my goal was to outdo anything and everything I've ever done before now. And I like to think we blew the doors off of it. Now it's going to be your opportunity to join us. It's an election year, and they're going to try everything they possibly can to distract us and deflect us and tell us that the issue is something else. They're saying reparations, and then they're going to try to steer us in another direction. But with your help, with you and me, we're going to be able to keep our focus firmly on the exact issue. You will not be taking our eye off the ball. However, I know you agree. Therefore, the telephone lines are now open, and the number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933, your personal access code to the blackest radio program in existence, the home of intelligent Black thought. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Venmo, and our crowdfunding on Indiegogo. This is history in the making. You remember the last time we did this, Issa Rae was our competition, remember? And Black Enterprise Magazine. Remember a decade ago, Black Enterprise Magazine was promoting Issa Rae and her minstrel factory over there, but they were ignoring a documentary specifically about Black entrepreneurship. Wasn't this everything that Earl Graves set up that magazine for? And they showed us in one day that no, that was not what it was for. That their mission is actually against us. So we had to do it ourselves, but we didn't whine, we didn't complain. And we have been steady at it the entire time. And we knocked Issa Rae out of the park a decade ago. So much so to the point they had to get HBO to come help her. Well, we're not tripping on that, and we're not worried, because we don't just represent the soil, we are the soil. So for everyone here, I want you to understand I poured my heart and my soul into this for the last 4 years. I wasn't thinking about us today. I was thinking about your children and your grandchildren. One day, all of us are going to be gone. And when we are, the only thing left is what we left behind. I want them to have a film that in a condensed form explains it to them in an easy to understand language and lets them know, by the way, here's what you do about it. Everyone talks about sports, entertainment, music. What they don't do is talk to the people who actually did these things. They don't talk to them to find out. By the way, Teddy Riley, tell me from the beginning, how did you do this? No. Start me from the very beginning. I want to know how you went from being a teenager to guy. That's what I want to know. And I got a few hours to sit here and talk to you about this. Hey, Virgil Roberts, tell me how you got into Solar Records. Well, I started off as a civil rights attorney, and then we met some promoters. Tell me everything. I want to know how you went from being an attorney to being an executive at Solar Records. How did that happen? Give me the step-by-step. No. Give me all the details. I need that. I need all the inside baseball. I want to know what Matthew Knowles found out. Give me that. I asked another question as well. I sat with Dame Dash, and I asked Dame Dash, I said, Dame, If you woke up tomorrow morning and you were 18 years old in the year 2024, what would you do if you wanted to get into the music business? Knowing about social media, the internet, and all the things we have today, what would you do, Dame Dash, in the year 2024 if you were trying to get into the music business today? What would you do? I asked the same thing of Teddy Riley. I asked the same thing of Alonzo Williams. I asked the same thing of Virgil Roberts. So we're not just sitting here talking about these things. What if you could talk to some of the most successful people in the history of the industries of what they've done and ask them, by the way, if you woke up tomorrow and you were 18 years old in the year 2024, what would you do to get into the business today? You don't have, radio isn't as influential as it once was. We have the internet now. You have cell phone technology. What would you do? And then sit down and listen to the answer. You want to talk about getting gamed up? I did this from the perspective of if your children one day stumble across this film, would it explain to them what they need to know in an ever-changing landscape? And I think we've succeeded. Now, it's up to all of you. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support this here. They're already hitting up the Indiegogo. I want to tell you all I am humbled. I am humbled by that because I feel like I've had to go above and beyond because of the faith that you all have put in me. You all put this much faith in me. I feel it's incumbent that I have to go above and beyond for all of you. So if you wonder what it was, I don't have any biological children of my own, but over the last decade and a half, many of you have had your children call me. I want them to have an easier road to get to this than I had. I want them to have an easier path to get here than I did, and probably than you did. So if you really want to know what this is about, I'm bringing us full circle to where we started. We're doing this for all of them. We're going to go ahead and go to the phone lines. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the Black channel. Let me go ahead and get caller from area code 323. You're on live with the Black channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Okay, somebody is on the line here, but I'm wondering if they are hearing us or paying attention. Sounds like that might be Brother Elijah breathing into the phone there, so I certainly hope it isn't. Just in case he is, let me go ahead and make sure he's all right in that regard. By the way, I'm actually not in my normal studio in the house. I'm actually not there tonight. I'm actually at the editing. So in reality, I've actually already started. So I'm actually already editing. And I've got a long way to go. So I'm actually in the process of editing on it right now. So once I get that done, everybody will be able to see what we've been working on. Okay, let me go back to the phone lines here again. Let me get caller from area code 323. You're on live with the Black channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Jet 2 from Los Angeles.
Okay, not Brother Elijah. This is Jet 2 from LA. What's on your mind, brother?
Yeah, so my neighborhood right now, I found out a couple years ago that to this day, it is still redlined. And how I found that out is because there were buildings that were across the street on the other side block that were not supposed to go over 2 stories that they were building, and they were 4 stories tall. So I had a few of my neighbors have a petition to stop that process, and how they rebutted was by going to the deed that exists that said that they couldn't go over 2 stories, and saying also if that is will to be in effect, then blacks and Asians can't live here. And that was how they beat my neighbors to put up these 4-story buildings that kind of peer into their backyards, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is after chattel slavery, they've gone on a nonstop campaign to institute every diabolically ingenious methodology of bureaucratically enslaving us, bureaucratically disenfranchising us, bureaucratically separating us from economics. That's what they've been doing the whole time.
Yeah.
Their whole focus in the life is concentrated on that one goal. So that's why you have so many laws, so many regulations, so many rules, all for the purposes of making sure that, okay, how do we create a system that allows whites to prosper, but simultaneously blocks black people from progressing? How do you do that? Well, this is why you need this labyrinth of rules. So what it does is there's a tripwire in there somewhere that's intended for you. Even if you hop over the others, if there's a tripwire in there somewhere that's going to get you. So at best, you don't achieve as much as you could. You may be, quote, successful, but you don't get as far as you actually could have. And at worst, you don't get anywhere at all.
I can't hear you, JB.
Not really sure what's going on there. If you're doing those kind of things, what they're going to do is they're going to make sure you don't get any of it. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. I want to say one more thing about redlining. Folks, there's a big misconception when we talk about redlining. Redlining is not a geographic designation. That's the thing I need you to understand. Redlining is not a geographic designation. Don't be fooled and don't be deceived. Redlining is not geographic. If you're black, you're redlined. If you are black, then you are redlined. Don't let somebody fool you into believing that, oh, if you're in a certain neighborhood or a certain block or a certain street, don't let them fool you into that. You're not redlined because of a block or a neighborhood. You're redlined because you're black. You are the red line. Standing in front of you is the red line. When you walk through the door, it doesn't matter what neighborhood you're in. Remember, folks, when you buy a house in the neighborhood, your house is worth less if you're black. Remember? Exact same house, exact same footprint, exact same everything as your neighbors. But when they find out that you own it, all of a sudden, now we're offering you less. All the real estate agents get together and conspire against you. How many lawsuits have we seen by black folk? We took out pictures out the home, put some white pictures up, and all of a sudden, the realtors upped the price that we were being offered. Yeah, they are all conspiring against you. They're all conspiring against you. That's what they're doing. They understand what's happening. They understand what's happening. Let me get caller from area code 779. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yes, I'm calling from Hawkins Park. Brother, my name is Omro, and I really appreciate what you do. And I'm one of them old brothers, so I would just, I send my kids money through Zelle. I would love to contribute to your show. But if you could do it, put it up with Zelle address or something, I would love to send you some money, man. I really appreciate what you do. On the part of reparations, if Trump was the threat, then they need to cut the check. If Democrats need to cut that check to us. But one thing I noticed, that they give the Indians reparations all the time, and nobody says anything about it. They don't come to us, we didn't make them walk the Trail of Tears, they don't ask us about our tax dollars. Do I want my tax dollars to go to the Indians? We supposed to be giving them money in perpetuity. When are they gonna come off that reservation and get, and do something for themselves? No, they just keep with a handout, and we just keep giving them our tax dollars and stuff. And every time when you always hear them people when they say, "Well, where are we gonna get the money to pay you? Where is that gonna come from?" All that money that they give to all these different foreign countries every year. 1 year, don't pay none of them, don't give none of those countries, Afghanistan, Israel, none of them get any money. Instead, they pay off the descendants of slaves in this country. That year, nobody gets no foreign aid, and they give all that foreign aid to us. I'm going to land my plane now, brother, with it. Do that Zelle number so I can send you some money, okay?
Okay, thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 770. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Vex, calling from Toronto.
Hi, Dex from Toronto. What's on your mind?
Yes, I have a query, and then I'll hang up and make room for other people, other callers, if that's all right. The question is, if it's not already too late, in your estimation, how much time do the American descendants of slaves have to build a protective, viable economy before it becomes fiscally, realistically, and temporally an unachievable goal?
There is no time limit, sir.
I thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. This is like saying, how long will you fight for freedom? We'll fight for it for 5 years. Okay, we'll fight for it for 6 years. No, we fight for it till we get it. We'll fight for it until we get it. Let me get caller from area code 773. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, good evening, JB. This DC Video from Chicago.
Okay, DC Video from Chicago with the pool hall. What's on your mind?
Yeah. I was just chiming in, listening to earlier how they was talking about the article about the reparations and the explanation, and I noticed how they kept trying to turn the conversation back to people from Africa. You know, they always try to slip in somebody else or some other ethnicity when it comes to talking about doing something for us. So I noticed that little part right there.
Okay, well, definitely thank you very much for giving us a call here. You keep an eye on the details here. Folks, there's no problem with the crowdfunding link, so some of the folks in the chat room, please do not post that there's a problem with the link. There may be a problem with your phone. There might be a problem with your reception. There's another problem with the link, so don't post things like that in the chat room, because then you got us thinking you're trolling or you might be suspected white supremacist or something. So let's not do that. The link is working just fine here. I've had my mods checking it, and I've been looking at it myself. So please stop posting that it's been moved or anything else, because then I'm going to start thinking that you're trying to do something untoward up in here. So if somebody's trying to cause misinformation or something, next I'm going to start banning people. So I'm saying this now. Stop saying that there's a problem with the link. If somebody else says there's a problem with the link again, we're going to get you removed, because now I'm thinking you're just trying to disrupt what we're doing. And I'm going to show you, by the way, after 10 years, we've gotten outrageously efficient at stopping that. The link did not go down. The link did not go down. Don't say the link went down. The link did not go down. You might be having an issue on your end. But if you keep doing that, by the way, you won't have to worry about it. So, folks, let's keep focused here. The link is perfectly fine. Let me get caller from area code 904. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, my name is Mac, calling from Jacksonville, Florida.
Mac from Jacksonville. What's on your mind?
I just want to say thank you and Tariq and all of the new black media for all the job done for our community, change our way of thinking and how we react and act on code. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 626. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's going on, Jason? It's CBR the Bard, aka the Vex Vagabond, reporting from 626. By the way, right now in Tampa, Florida.
Oh, okay.
First off,
love that area code. What's on your mind, brother?
Yeah. Okay. So first off, I want to say, hey, you took a stroll through my stomping grounds, apparently back in Skid Row. So salute to you from that. A lot of people, they'd be nervous to even go up over there. But something that I noticed in that article that the LA Times did is the fact that they mentioned the 50-year-olds that get out of Twin Towers, which is LA County Jail, and the prison system over there. And they mentioned the people over 50, but they don't mention the people like myself under 30, you know what I'm saying? And we be getting shuttled out of the system, whether it be Twin Towers, whether it be, the foster system, things of that nature, or transitional housings and things of that nature, and end up right in Skid Row. The last time that I was in Skid Row was 7 years ago, and I said, I said no to that, and then ended up, doing my travels throughout the states, and ended up going to 42 states, and now I'm in Tampa. But I found it interesting that they didn't mention the other half of that coin.
Oh, well, like
And
I say,
what
that's
exactly-
for political purposes there, that they say that there. But I think that there's a idea that they expect younger people to they expect homelessness to be a younger person's issue. I think is the point they were trying to make, that this is a younger person's issue. I actually give them a little bit of credit for pointing out that, by the way, this isn't just a young person's issue. This is an older person's issue. Now, the point that you're making is also very prescient. I didn't read the whole article to everybody just yet, but the point you're making is very prescient, because what you're pointing out is that, by the way, they start this as early as they can. This is a trap system. Now, let me tell you, I mean, I've been to California many times, and the police in Los Angeles in particular, I mean, when you take a look at police culture, the police culture in Los Angeles, it's not a profession, it's like a gang. And I'm talking about, I'm not just talking about the white officers, I'm talking about the black officers too. It's like it's really a us versus them, period. It really, really is. I mean, it's palpable. Like, for example, they're always in groups. Never see one by themselves. They're always with other folk there. And you can tell when you're with people who are on the same page. You can tell when you're standing next to two people who they're of a like mind. And that is hard. It's a distinct thing in Los Angeles. It really, really is, because it sounds like an exaggeration, but it's not. It's difficult from the mentality, from the mannerisms, from the body language to tell the difference between the police and the gangs out there. Talking about the disciplined ones. It's very, very difficult to tell the difference. So it sounds, to a person who's never been there or hasn't spent any real time there, it sounds like an exaggeration when people talk about folks, getting drugs planted on them all the time. That's a real thing in Los Angeles. That's part of the culture of the police in Los Angeles. That's part of the culture.
Yep. Yeah, I've had my times over in San Bernardino County, which is not a part of Los Angeles. It's in the IE, but where I had to fight undercover detectives that were working with blood. You know what I'm saying? And they were working with the drug trade over in Barstow, California. So I've had my experiences, catching fades with, law enforcement out in California.
Right. Now, what he's talking about here,
I understand that.
I think it's out Interstate 10, about an hour outside of Los Angeles is San Bernardino. If y'all remember in the end of the old television shows, or Television City. So you go out there and whatnot, and a lot of black folk wound up getting priced out. Those who got priced out of Los Angeles, they wound up in San Bernardino and Riverside.
Yep, that's what I was told you was.
Places like that. Yeah, like I said,
then you end up in Arizona.
I've tried to do my homework there.
Texas.
Oh, now there's the real. Now, if you're really in bad shape, you end up out in desert cities. So I'm like, if you can't make it in San Bernardino, if you're really bad shape, you might end up out there in desert cities. But what I'm saying is that was economic. That really, really is. Where black folk have ended up pushed out in those areas, that's not accidental that they're all floating out there like that. They were pushed out there because that's economic engineering at its finest. And then you telling me that you're going to give out some free scholarships and that's going to fix that? No, it's not. I'll let you have the last word.
And that begs the question as well too, Jason, because I'm a couple weeks away from going back to school, and again, I'm in my late 20s, so I'm trying to see should I even go back and do the bachelor's, complete that? What are your thoughts on that, man? I mean, the associates didn't do nothing for me. What's your thoughts on that, man?
Okay, look, a degree is a fine thing depending on what you get the degree in. There's the trick.
Psychology.
Useless.
Psychology.
Useless.
Exactly, just like I thought.
Utterly. Psychology, sociology, liberal arts, art, period. No, if it's not STEM, if it's not STEM, medicine, and I'll give a little eek for the law, depending on which discipline of the law you go into, I'll give a little bit of extra for that. But if it's not STEM or medicine or the law, it's useless. In the 21st century, it's useless.
Okay. Thank you. And before you land the plane, I've been through Louisiana. I lived in Baton Rouge. Didn't enjoy it there, but I like Shreveport and Lake Charles. I know you from Shreveport, so salute to Shreveport. I'm out here in my soldier fatigues right now up in these streets, man. So you know what it is with that soldier rag. One.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for giving us the call tonight, brother. We appreciate that. Let me go ahead and get caller from area code 516. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Brother Jason, it's Adam, Queens, New York.
Adam from Queens, what's on your mind?
Well, first, I'd like to say congratulations on making that little film you got going. You know, got my support. As far as reparations, I wanted to talk about something that I really don't hear much people talk about. So, for instance, my family, literally, like, I've had cousins from like foster care and some from like that adopted and things like that. And I was looking and I'm like thinking like, damn, we all know how our people are put through that system, whether it's foster care, all these agencies, whatnot. And I'm like, this has been going on for a long time. So can you imagine how many brothers and sisters is going to be screwed out of that reparations because their bloodline's been lost? Like, even me, like, I've looked at certain lines of my family members. I just can't, I can't figure it out. You can only get to so far. So what do you have to say about that?
Absolutely. I'm not a person who is so Pollyannish as to believe that we're going to be able to find every single one. There's nothing absolute in this world except death. So I'm not so naive as to think we will find everyone. We can find everyone, but I'm not so naive as to believe we will. Here's the thing, though. Ultimately, it still helps you, because the more of us who got it together, that's the more in white society. The real reason why they've got this, they have an ethnic safety net, not necessarily a social one, an ethnic one, because there's only 1 degree of separation between them and a white person making $1 million. They got them in their family, they got them at their job. So with having that close of a degree of separation, even if there were no social safety nets, they don't need it. They have a ethnic safety net. And you see them employed at the jobs and things like that. When black folk get it together across the board, that provides the safety net for everyone. So even under the circumstances where you didn't get to capitalize on that, that will still, as long as everybody else gets in there, that still helps you. That still helps you, and not indirectly either. That still helps you directly to have direct access to those people. Because right now, you know a bunch of black folk. The problem is, if you know a bunch of people who don't have anything, it doesn't help you. That's the problem.
Right, Brother Jace. But I was going to say, I didn't want to just chime in, but like, I get that. Like, I definitely know that. Like, I've already come to that conclusion where if that happens, like, I'm 70% chance that I'm not going to be able to find what I need to find. And I'm fine with that. As long as my brothers and sisters who can find what they can get, I'd be amazed if that happened. Like, I'm pushing for it. I hope it happens, regardless of what. But what I'm saying is, I think that they've been doing this and they've been delaying this purposely and doing this just like families like ours. Breaking up these families.
Oh, absolutely.
Just in case the day
it goes
comes,
beyond
like
that.
a tactic they use.
No. It goes beyond that, brother. It goes beyond just cloudying the bloodlines to make sure you can't find them. Oh no, I meant when I said a decade and a half ago here. When you have an obsolete workforce, when you're done with slaves, what do you do with them? Well, throughout history, the slaves you don't use, you get rid of them. You don't keep them around. The slaves you don't need, if you cannot integrate them into your society, you get rid of them. Throughout history, that's what you do. You annihilate them. Well, I called my second film Gentrified Ethnic Cleansing American Style. So the whole point is to hold you off until y'all are dead. The strategy for Bruce's Beach was to deny the bloodline, and then hopefully a century later, y'all are all dead. So we don't have to pay anybody. That's always been the goal. What do we do to make sure y'all are just dead? Let's just hold you all off. You've seen them do that with the Exxon Valdez, with litigation over the course of decades. With us, oh, brother, that's the goal, is just hold them off as long as you can. And when we come back, they're all dead. That was the whole point of Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street, they're just now wanting to talk about it because they think they've got an opportunity to address it in a minor way because we pushed the envelope so hard on it that they couldn't ignore it anymore, but they've held off as long as they could. Okay, most of y'all are dead, so that's the argument they're making. Well, I mean, they're all dead, really, so what do you expect us to do? That's not accidental. Displace them, disperse them, spread them out, oppress them in the four winds, and if the few who do gather themselves back together and get organized, well, the rest of them will be dead. So at worst, we'll be talking to one or two of them. But the whole hundreds and thousands of them, they're all dead. Well, yeah, they're dead. You waited 80, 90 years. You waited 100 years. And this is why when they ask us how long we're going to pursue this, there is no expiration date on this. None. There wasn't an expiration date on our oppression. There wasn't an expiration date on our exploitation. There will not be an expiration date on reparations. Never. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We're Jewish people. There was no expiration date for them. For the Japanese, there's no expiration date for them. There's no expiration date for us. None. So when they say, well, Jason, how long will y'all stand here? Till we get it. Oh, that's the kind of negotiator I am. I'm not the negotiator. Well, if y'all don't do it in 20 years, we're going to switch up. No, we'll be here until it gets done. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to sit here on our hands. Oh, trust me, we won't be doing that. But we're going to keep at this until we will be pushing on this as the issue until it gets done. As the author once said, round the roving rings of Saturn and through perdition's flame before we give it up. This is a blood debt. This is a blood debt. And so long as we are able to tell the tale and pass this down, you will either pay the reparations or reparations will become the legacy, and we will just pass that down. But don't ever think you're going to wake up one of these generations and we've let the matter go. Don't ever deceive yourself into that. In case you couldn't tell, it's been 160 years and we're yelling for it now more than we ever have. In case you didn't notice, 160 years later and we're louder about it today than we were then. You should catch a clue. We ain't letting it go. Caller from area code 301, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
I'm Nicole. I'm calling from Prince George's County.
Nicole from Prince George's County, what's on your mind?
Hey, Jason, how you doing? I just want to say what a time to be alive. Like you just said, these conversations about reparations are even more at a fever pitch now. And if you've taught us nothing else, that you have to come with something substantive. You can't just be not having anything tangible in these reparations. So I appreciate you for that. And the second point that I wanted to make was that your new film that's coming out in the fall is another opportunity for us to, ring that bell even more, especially as we're coming into this election in November. So again, that conversation is never going to die. As a matter of fact, I feel like it's even louder with the Gen X generation, after the baby boomers, as they fall, go wherever they're going to go. But the conversation is going to keep going. Again, what a time to be alive. I've never, I'm not that old, but I've never heard this much talk about reparations in my life. And they can't help but carry that conversation because that's all that we're talking about.
Well, it's called having an agenda, because before now, we went to the March on Washington, in the words of Dr. King, to come get our check. And what they did was they murdered him and everybody else who was talking about coming to get the check. Then that made a bunch of folks scared on one hand and made a bunch of other folks start reevaluating their plans on the other. And then all of a sudden, we're no longer talking about coming to get the check. Now we're talking about, well, can we get integration? Can we get some health care? Can we get some government jobs? Can we get some scholarships and get some student loans? And next thing you know, the government went to work to create programs to train us to be their workforce. So I'm like, you called this progress? You've been maneuvered. We were discussing ownership. Now you've got us discussing something other than ownership. In other words, we're coming back to you again. So when we're talking about this, they understand, hey, they're not talking about getting anything else from us. They're talking about this is what it will cost to get us on our own square, to get us with our own program, to get us with our own agenda and our own economy. This is what we're looking at. We're not looking at anything else. And they're not stupid. They're not dumb. They understand that if we take a look at the ingenuity that we used in music and sports and everything else, if we are allowed the capital that we need, you're going to see that ingenuity show up there, where what it took them 10 times more money than us, we're going to bring 10 times more creativity. Hell no, you can't let this get off the ground at all. You got to strangle this baby in its crib. All too late. The baby's already a teenager. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 718. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Eric, originally from New York, and I'm calling from Montgomery, Alabama.
All right, Eric in Montgomery, Alabama. What's on your mind?
First, I want to say thank you, Jason. For years and years, I've been railing for reparations, and I've been talking about it since high school. I'm 51 years old. Never felt like I had backup until I got with your channel, Tariq Nasheed, Professor Black Truth. Now I know that I'm not alone. We don't need people like Mayor Eric Adams, Brandon Johnson, Fannie Willis. The list goes on. These people are not for us. And I will say, even my own mother will say, I'm voting for the lesser of two evils. The object is not to vote for evil point blank. And if I got to vote the freaking couch, then so be it.
Well, you know, the issue there, though, is when you hear things like that, what does that tell you? That tells you that you are talking to a defeated person. When the person is telling you, my strategy for winning is to select the person who I think is going to not be able to hurt me the most. Not to end up in a good place, but to end up in the least awful place I can be. Well, that's a defeated person. Because a person who's not defeated says, wait a minute, I'm supposed to define life on my own terms, not on yours. My limits are supposed to be what I say it is, not what you say it is. So when you go for the quote, the lesser of two evils, what you've conceded is that you will only go as far as they say, which means you surrendered your intrinsic right to determine where you're supposed to be. But then again, a person who accepts that, maybe that's where they're supposed to be. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. That's not where we are supposed to be. Caller from area code 813. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, my name is Larry, calling from Sarasota, Florida.
Larry from Sarasota, what's on your mind?
I would like to give shout outs to my FBA people and keep your head up. Don't break, because no matter how many people they bring to America, always remember, Texas, you can fit the whole world in the state of Texas and give everybody 300 square feet of living space. We are 10 toes down here in America. We are not fleeing. We're 10 toes down. Nobody's got to think about it. Don't get discouraged, black people, about all this killing. Everybody, the black is black on black crime. Everybody from other countries are killing each other too. And guess what they're doing? They're running to America. We're not running to their country.
Well, we're less concerned about that than we are about our own agenda. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get called from area code 626. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, you're on live. What is your name? Where you calling from?
Oh, hi. I'm Larez, calling from LA. I commented in the chat and I just wanted to say I'm grateful for to MLK and the Civil Rights Movement, because the Civil Rights Act removed all the bans on immigration from Asia that allowed my family to come over. Because when I asked them, hey, so when did you guys come over here? And all of them are like late 60s. And it never occurred to me why it had to be late 60s.
Correct.
Why it couldn't be earlier. Yes. And then that's why, and another thing is when I found out about redlining and how in the 30s they were trying to increase home ownership, they basically gave 0% buyer-friendly mortgages to everybody except black people. And then that was in the 30s. And then in the 40s, no black servicemen got the GI Bill, which is total bullshit. I mean, people, like politicians saying they support veterans. Give me a break.
Now
So,
remember
just those
remember
two
that right
things-
there. When you're talking about World War II and post-World War II, that's mostly within our lifetimes. Most of us still have a direct relative who was alive during World War II, in many cases who fought in World
Yeah.
War II, and yet they were not allowed the benefits of it. So definitely, here's what I want you to do. As an Asian person here, number one, you need to make sure that you keep your community on code about understanding when you have folks sitting up here demeaning what we're talking about and, oh, they're just lazy or this, that, and the other. I'm glad that you've educated yourself on these things, but you also need to be vocal about that. The next thing you can do, if you're really serious here, you can click that link at the top of the chat room. I want to see you be a contributor to our crowdfunding so we can take this message around the world.
Oh, I donated already.
Well, that's what I want to
pay-
hear.
The
That-
PayPal links in the description.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, he's talking about in the link. No, I want you to give to the crowdfunding. Take a look at the top of the chat room. You're going to see the blue banner up there that has the 2 red flags. Go ahead and click on that one. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. You really want to do something fly? Have your name on that. Go ahead and get some producer credit. Show your kinfolk what you really got going on. Get some producer credit. Let me get caller from area code 424. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason, it's Bud calling from West Palm,
Okay, what's the name again?
West Palm Beach, Florida. Bud calling from West Palm Beach, Florida.
All right, Fudd from West Palm Beach. What's on your mind?
Yes, I'm definitely going to donate to the crowdfunding because this isn't a documentary or a movie. This is actually a course. And the reason why I'm going to say that it's a course is because, Jason, I work at a executive airport in Palm Beach, and all I see is rich white kids getting on their private jets, leaving and going. And so I used to call myself shooting the shit with them by basically asking, hey, they'd say, how you doing? I would say, what do you have that could get me out of this security vehicle? And it always would be no answer. And so at first I was getting upset with myself thinking that, okay, they don't want to share the information until I realized is that they don't have no information to share. They are rich kids. They don't know how they accumulated the wealth, and a spirit came over me and told me to look in the mirror. That's how they accumulated it.
There you go.
And so
Now, when you
when
understand
have
that their experience is totally different from yours, when you understand that their experience is fundamentally, mechanically different from yours, then you also understand why they would be terrified of having to compete against you on an even playing field. They would be terrified because you are actually having to learn how to get it. They didn't have to learn how to get it. It was given to them. Now they just have to make sure they keep it. So they're not concerned with getting it anymore. Their focus now is on keeping it. And you are a direct threat as far as they're concerned in that. You're a threat. So anything that would help you is negative to them. So you're right. On the one hand, they probably don't even know, although they're going to have to be trained at some point because you can't hold it if you're just completely clueless. So they're going to be trained at some point, but it's just been given to them for now. So don't just assume that they don't know. It's always best to assume that it's not in their interest to discuss that with you. Because here's the real, because you're calling them white kids. Well, I'm telling you is that they get to talk. Just like black kids get to talk about the police, white kids get to talk about, okay, When black folks start talking to you about money, you stop talking. Well, what do I say? Don't say anything. And so that's why universally, when you all start talking to them, they clam up. Brother, I talked about this 30 years ago. The reason why I made my first documentary film, 7 a.m., and now the follow-up to it, brother, I worked for white millionaires 30 years ago. In Louisiana, yeah, I worked for them then. Now, these were labor jobs, but these guys were making at least $5 or $6 million a year, which in Louisiana was and is fantastic. But the thing was, being the inquisitive person I am, I'm asking questions. I'm asking the kind of questions you all hear me ask people. I was asking that of them. And brother, they clammed up on me. I watched it happen over and over and over again. We could sit there and discuss anything and everything. They wouldn't shut up talking until I start asking them, yeah, so how do you go ahead and flip that $100,000? Then they got quiet. I'm talking about wouldn't say anything. It was straight slave codes. That's economic slave codes. Brother, they wasn't playing when they said if you teach them how to read, they'll want more. That is still in effect. That's still in effect today. Don't talk to them about the nuts and bolts of it. Don't game them up. If you do, they'll want more. Which is why even in the NBA and NFL, what do? Okay, here's what the players get, but don't discuss ownership with them. And that's why in my film, by the way, yes, I've got professional athletes in my film who will confirm what I just said to you. Oh, these are not you heard Mahmoud Ralph say that from high school to college, NCAA. He said, when I was at LSU, we didn't have conversations about the business of sports. You were run day and night and day. These guys all had the same story. You were run day and night to focus on being the best ball player you could be. But there were no students who would bring up the subject, and there were no faculty who would discuss it with you. So you spent 2 to 4 years focusing only on upping your basketball game. By the time you get to the pros, you've now been indoctrinated. The only thing you're there to do is shut up and dribble and try to get the best contract you can so you can get the most money you can, because so far you ain't made no money. So by the time you get done, ownership is out the damn window. And that's at every level, including something as seemingly ordinary as what you do. Oh no, brother, when we talk about systemic racism, what you just described, that's it. Right there. When you have that uniformity of response when you ask that question, that's systemic racism. Don't ever forget it, and don't let them off easy. They've been given the talk. Because you talking about they white kids, I'm pretty sure they're not children. If you don't believe that they know about racism already, brother, just go on Fortnite and listen to when they turn on their microphones. They'll be yelling nigga, nigga all night on those online video games. They'll be yelling at all the Call of Duty and everything else. YouTube is full of videos of teenagers, adolescents. So don't deceive yourself into thinking that they're not aware of that. No, that's always in the cards. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Don't be naive about it, or don't think that they're naive. They get the talk. They get the talk from an early age. And if you think that they're naive, just go ahead and check out Xbox Live. Go turn on Xbox Live with your kids, and they'll show you just how unnaive these other people are. Call from area code 954. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
How you doing, Mr. JB? This is Derek calling from West Palm Beach.
All right, Derek calling from West Palm Beach. They're lighting us up tonight. What's on your mind?
Yes, we are. We in here in full effect. Hey, I just want to congratulate you on the new 8 a.m. I'm looking forward to it. I'm legit to the whole, this what we're looking at right now. But I'm retired military. I did 23 and a half years, and, I've always been B1, and I love what you're doing, brother. I love it. I love it. I love it. B1. And, one more thing. You said something about a blood debt. I'm not advocating any of this, but do you think it may come to that in order for us to get these reparations?
Well, no, brother. I mean, a blood debt simply means that this is something that was written in blood and is undying. You do not owe this.
Correct.
This debt is not simply economic. Our grudge is not simply economic. This is a blood debt. People have died, not figuratively.
Exactly.
We've buried people, and we still are. So what we're doing is communicating the seriousness of this. It's like, well, I'm using these words. I'm not using them as hyperbole. I'm using this so that folks understand this is how serious this is. I'm not joking. I'm not playing. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not embellishing. No, what the Jewish Holocaust, when they said it was a blood debt, you took them seriously. Well, guess what? We all the way own it. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Somebody in the chat room said that Adrian Peterson wants to get back in the NFL at 38 because they broke. That reminds me of Tiki Barber. It's an interesting way you see the story all over the place. It goes around and around like that. But that's not accidental either. That's engineered. From the time they can put on some pads, they're engineered to go out there, generate a bunch of wealth, and when they leave the system, they leave the wealth behind them. You couldn't keep that operation going if it didn't. Well, I mean, you could keep it going without it working that way, but you couldn't keep the guys on top where they are if you didn't run it like a plantation. So what you found out when they say $40 million slaves, yeah, that's what they mean. Call from area code 717. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, my name is Elise, and I'm calling from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Elise from Harrisburg, what's on your mind?
It's been a long time, so it's nice to hear your voice again. I just wanted to make this really quick and say thank you so much for all the time, money, and effort you put into this newest film. When I saw you broadcasting live, I clicked on the video, even though it's been a little while since I've watched, and I was so excited to see the 8 a.m. film, and I was like clapping and just so excited. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate all the work you do. I think the last time I called was maybe 6 months ago. So, oh my God, I'm getting nervous. But
it's all right.
Yeah. I've been listening to you for so long, so I guess that's why I get nervous. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for checking back.
I donated to the film. I can't wait till it comes out.
That's what we need to hear. Thank you very much for checking back with us, Elise. She's nervous. It's all right. Hey, trust me, sometimes I'm a little nervous too. I don't ever take these things for granted. Never. And I don't take any of you for granted. Don't ever believe that happens, because I don't. Caller from area code 714, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, this is Eric calling from Los Angeles. Hey, have you noticed lately how important black people don't became to folks during this election year?
Oh, yeah.
It's like Donald Trump know he needs the black vote, and he knows that we want reparations, but he just can't say that, else he's going to lose all his other support. And like we've been saying, we want reparations, and the more and more that we're demanding this, I think white folks going to turn and going to say, but the Indians owe too. And
they're already doing it.
Calling out the Indians for what they owe us too, more so to take the heat off them.
Well, I mean,
That's
no.
all I got to say,
as far as Native Americans, no, because they've already got a Bureau of Indian Affairs and all that. What you're going to see them try to do, though, is to pivot to probably Asians and make it an aggrieved groups thing. So, yeah, they're going to have to put the pedal to the metal to try to turn this from being a lineage issue to, oh, well, there's aggrieved people. And that's not for the purposes of paying anything. It's for the purposes of saying, well, everybody's got a grievance, so that's why we don't have to pay anything. So there's the reason why. Look, you know there's going to be opposition. You know they're going to try to I'm white and I say so. They ain't going to just give it up. Power has never conceded anything without a demand. It never has, and it never will. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get called from area code 626. We got the 626 area code a lot tonight. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
I'm Debbie calling from California.
Okay, Debbie calling from where at in California?
Pasadena. I knew you were going to ask me.
All right, Debbie from Pasadena, what's on your mind?
I'm calling because I'm so thankful that you are where you are and doing what you have done and are doing. And I know this, you will succeed. You will succeed with this. This is the time. And I just want to crown you King Jason.
Well, I thank you very much, ma'am. I will But by the way, the crown is for all of you. Just remember, we are all in this together because we're going to stand together or die together. That's just the bottom line. So thank you very much for your support. I appreciate that. There is no me. There's only us and we, period. I've said that since day one. I want you to understand that. There is no we. I'm just your humble servant. My job is to show you how dedicated I am to this. And you all give me the ability to keep focused on that. Let me get caller from area code 702. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason. This is Rich Red calling out of Midland, Texas.
All right, Rich out of Midland. What's on your mind?
Yeah, man. The blood is in the water. You know, they are backed into a corner. We got them in check. It's time to move in for the score.
I agree. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. They're talking about reparations here and whatnot, and you know they're going to try to throw the trick bag into it. The real thing is they're talking about it now because all the deflection ain't working. They know what the issue is. They know what we're on. They know what we're focused on. They know what our agenda is, and we know what they're going to do next. They're going to say, now they've moved on to saying the word and then telling you, okay, let's see if we can redefine that word reparations. Oh, I'm all in favor of it here. I think scholarships, we didn't say nothing about no scholarships. Well, cash payments, okay. Because the homelessness need, okay, well, how about we deal with before they're homeless? You talking about the homeless, we're talking about dealing with it so that never happens. Caller from area code 917, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Housing Authority 527. I just want to vouch for Kiss. You know, he being Yonkers, you know, him and his partners, they own a juice bar. Every year, you know, they give out books. They give out everything. You know, make sure the kids got books. Thanksgiving, they give stuff out. They just do the right thing. And when I seen him on your film, I was kind of amazed. More like him should step to the plate. You agree?
Well, absolutely. Like I say, I've said for the last decade and whatnot, you know, it's just I don't talk about everybody I know. I don't talk about everyone I got access to or whatever. And, you know, they come when they come. But here's the other thing. They got plenty of media outlets that talk to them. They don't ask these questions. In a lot of cases, when you get these people on the stage somewhere, get them in front of a microphone, folks want to ask them fan questions and ask them just basic, oh, well, when's the next album coming out? And what's the beef with this person or whatever? I'm the guy who just doesn't do that. But I would tell you, you would actually probably have these, I know from personal experience, you would have these guys will talk about this kind of stuff and you'll have these kind of conversations if somebody will ask them. But
right,
take a look at it. Folks generally, the outlets that they generally go to don't want to talk about this. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Like I say, I mean, these folks here, if these other places had an opportunity to talk to them, would they stop and ask these questions? If they had an opportunity to talk to Beyonce or Jay-Z, would they talk to them about black folks' condition, or would they talk to them about when's Destiny's Child getting back together? Shout out Kelly Rowland. I know you're sick of folks saying that. I get it. But by the way, when folks do have an opportunity to talk to them, that's what they say. So it's more, that's why we have to have our own outlets. That's why we have to put together our own media. We got to put together our own media because these corporate outlets aren't going to do this. If they talk to them, they're going to swerve the conversation off away from us as far as you can get. And yes, Jada was very much representing Yonkers. When I talked to him, he was very much representing Yonkers. He sure was. I will tell you that. He reps Yonkers. Caller from area code 651, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening, Jason Black. This is Bill calling out of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Bill out of Minneapolis, what's on your mind?
I just wanted to personally say thank you very much for the broadcast tonight and also the construction of this amazing documentary of 8 a.m. And in particular, listening to Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf. You know, he's one of my favorite basketball players and certainly a guy that has been a huge inspiration when it comes to the FBA movement. And the way that the NBA did to him was just absolutely just 100% ridiculous. I mean, if that's not the definition of blackball, I don't know what is. For all the kids out there that don't know who this man is, go look him up. I mean, he's pretty much the Colin Kaepernick before Colin Kaepernick.
Kaepernick before
And so,
Kaepernick, and especially because it wasn't easy. Please remember, Mahmoud Rauf stood 10 toes down after 9/11. Now, we're talking about an event where they wanted to round people up and this, that, and the other for sedition and this, that, and the other. And Mahmoud Rauf would not bend under those circumstances. With folks blowing up buildings and whatnot and going to war and dropping bombs, and knowing that the pressure is on, knowing what was going to happen if he did not compromise. And with all that going on, he refused to compromise. Let me tell you, that was an interview that I've waited decades to do, and it was well worth it. It was well worth it. This is not a shallow individual. He's not naive. He knew exactly what he was doing. All these decades later, he understood. He still understands exactly what he did and what the ramifications were, and he was ready to carry the weight. He was ready to carry the weight. So let me tell you, of all the interviews I did, this is a guy right here who I think his was probably the most profound simply because of what he did under those circumstances. Now you hop back to it and then we say, okay, think about when you got into this and you start seeing the parallels through it. So let me tell you, you all are going to want to hear what Mahmoud has to say because you haven't heard anything from him probably in the last couple of decades. You're going to want to hear what he has to say in this film. No ifs, ands, or buts. You're going to want to hear this. I'll let you have the last word.
Yes, indeed, absolutely. And this is a man that pretty much has stood firm for what he always believed in and what was actually right. And I have to tell you, I cannot wait to watch the film and listen to more of what he was thinking about at the time and how the NBA pretty much put the royal screws in, not just Mahmoud himself, but also the Craig Hodges too, and considering the fact that he was looking to try to make a stand during the 1991 NBA Finals when he asked Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson to boycott under the stuff that was going on in California. So I cannot wait to watch the documentary, and thank you so much for what you've been doing. Your endless work will never be forgotten.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, brother. We appreciate that there. Like I say, it's a profound interview. I was proud to speak to him. He was completely open and candid. I know it sounds self-serving, but it's well worth seeing. It's well worth seeing. Let me get called from area code 206. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is Anthony from Seattle.
Anthony from Seattle, what's on your mind?
Man, unfortunately, well, first off, thanks for having me on, and peace to everyone in the B1 community. I missed a large portion of this program, but the title, man, I might have to go back and watch it. But my question is, and if I could follow up with a comment, I was wondering how you feel about, I don't know if this is mainly a West Coast thing, but I've been seeing a lot of like reparations projects pop up in the name of like redlining or subprime lending, eminent domain, and stuff like that. And I know it's usually ran by church folk and city council members and stuff involved. I just wanted your take on that.
Well, here's my thing. I've talked about this before. That's not reparations. That's just legislation. Now, it is legislation that needs to go through, absolutely. But to be totally honest with you here, this is a red herring and a bait and switch for them, and it's disingenuous to sit up here and try to put the reparations tag on that, because as the Legislative Black Caucus, the bottom line is they can sit up here and just tell the rest of the Democrats, look here, we're not going to support any of your agendas until you focus on this. See, that's the way that's supposed to work. Let the Republicans run whatever they're going to do out here. Yeah, we got a super majority. Yeah, not if we don't go along with it. We're not going to support anything until you all start focusing on this. So filibuster, hold up, whatever. Don't expect us to support anything until you start supporting this. That's the way your political representatives are supposed to work. It's not supposed to be about if they got the majority of the votes. They're supposed to be your strongest advocates. It doesn't require all this grandstanding to say the words reparation. They can just sit there and look at their fellow Democrats and say, hey, if you ain't on board with this, we ain't backing none of it. Whatever legislation you bring up, we ain't backing it. Whatever it is. Since you've already told us you ain't gonna back this, whatever it is, okay, we're not gonna back yours, whatever it is. Period. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. That's what you do when you doing politics. If they were really representing us, they wouldn't be trying to label it reparations. You would just tell them, hey, this needs to be taken care of regardless. This redlining stuff, this needs to be outlawed regardless. And if you don't, whatever y'all bring to the floor, the answer is no before you get there. So don't even bother telling us what it is. The answer is already no. Since our answer is already no, your answer is already no, whatever it is. Caller from area code 803, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, what's going on? This is Tyrone, Mr. Black from South Carolina.
Okay, Tyrone, what's on your mind?
Yeah, man, as far as the reparation goes, man, I was at me and my wife went to the Cat Williams concert that's been going on Friday. And it was weird, man, because first of all, he spoke about that reparations. And, man, all the white people, it was a good bit of white people that started walking out doing the comedy thing or whatnot. And then another thing that was real crazy around that, man, because it was like a lot of weird white people that was at the comedy, that went to the comedy program. And the crazy thing was they was in there and like they wasn't laughing, they wasn't smiling, they wasn't joking. It was just like a real weird dynamic up in there, man. And that's pretty much all I got to say about that.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Yeah, like I say, they already paid their money, so they can get up and leaves a seat for somebody else. Call from area code 804. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Ben, Richmond, Virginia.
Ben in Richmond, what's on your mind?
Can you believe at this late date, in talking to some of what we call the old Negroes, they are still somehow concerned about the Ukraine, still somehow concerned about Israel, and still somehow impressed with the fact that Kamala Harris got to be vice president. If there are any argument, I guess against reparations, it would be them. They are the most backward lot among us, and that includes all the hood rats and dusty dudes. At least the hood rats and dusty dudes know what they are. These sorts of clowns are just puppets that regurgitate what they hear off MSNBC and nothing more.
Well, yeah, I mean, understand, they've got a different goal. They are, in their minds, they are buttering up the dominant society. And the problem is, if you play dumb long enough, eventually you start to become it. So in their minds, they're buttering up the dominant society and greasing the skids for themselves. But in reality, all they're really doing is exposing where they are. And you know what? That's good. We want all of them to say what they are openly, state it openly. We need everybody to declare where they're at on it so we can see what side everybody's on. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get called from area code 682. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Raheem, I'm in Seattle, Texas right now.
Okay, Raheem, where?
In Seattle, Texas right now. I'm sorry, Seattle, Washington.
Okay, thank you, sir. Seattle, Texas. I was about to say, I've been in Texas many years. I was trying to figure out where.
Well, I lived in Texas
Seattle, Texas. I know Atlanta, Texas. Yeah, Seattle, Texas, not quite. What's on your mind?
I got you. Yeah, so I'm just curious. Why is it that because I moved here recently and I got a huge. Last year I made $227,000 a year, but I'm just curious as to why when us black folk ask questions, we're hostile. But when white folk ask questions, they're just curious. Literally, I was in a Zoom meeting. They said they got $47 million saved, or put aside for the next shutdown. And one dude was being silly and said, "Hey, well, what if I had $5 to F your mom?" to another white guy? They just giggled and stuff like that. I'm like, whoa. I would put hands on you if you asked me that. But if I ask questions, I'm hostile.
Of course.
I'm the only black guy there.
You are not, because you are not a part of the culture. Look, over a decade ago, I created a phrase, and I want you to remember this is your status. You are a legal alien. You're not an illegal alien. You're a legal alien.
So they would pay me that much to be illegal. I'm just like I
Brother,
said,
no,
I'm
they're not paying you.
Like my father
They're
taught
not
me.
paying you
I'm
because
sorry.
they're not paying you because they're bored. They're paying you because you're providing a necessary service. If they didn't have to hire you, they wouldn't have done it in the first place. So this is a necessary evil. So you're there as long as they want you to be there, as long as they need you. And as soon as they don't need you, then they're going to come up with a reason to try to get rid of you. So this isn't charity that they're doing. Nobody opens doors for us for charity. If a black man or a woman gets something, particularly black men, but if a black person gets something, you earned it. Even the coons.
Yes.
Even the coons. Even though they don't realize it. Brother, they gotta work twice as hard. They gotta work 3 or 4 times as hard. Even cooning. The same Clarence Thomas had to work 5 times as hard as Alito, Scalia, and the rest of them to get on the Supreme Court. None of the rest of them had to sit up here in front of a hearing asking about sexual harassment. So he had to work way harder, even though he was cooning. If you're a black person and you get something in this country, you earned it. Cause there's no privilege for you to fall back on. And there's nobody giving charity for you to access. The folks getting charity are being held where they are and they never leave. Those of you who actually get something, brother, you earn that. Do not discount that. It is not charity. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 713. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Tony calling from Houston, Texas.
Tony from Houston, what's on your mind?
Well, first of all, Jason, I'd like to congratulate you. You have been the leader. You've been the only one. When I started listening to you, I was immediately drawn to you. And people may recognize my voice. I'm the older senior person, I guess. I think you've been here before.
Well, I like to think so.
I think this is your second. I think it's your second life. You talk about things that I thought I was pretty much the only one that knew about or read about or heard about or was interested in. So anyway, I called into C-SPAN a few weeks ago concerning Nikki Haley, which I can't pronounce her Indian name right now, when she made the comment about slavery. What do you want me to say about slavery? These people, and including Donald Trump on the speech yesterday he gave, I mean, these people do not believe that black people are humans at all. They don't believe that. We are a subspecies of something. And so this is the war that we're dealing with right now. And it will only come to an end when finally white supremacy realizes that they are going to have to deal with black people in this country. And this reparations that you started is obviously something that they realize, at least some, that they're going to have to face. The Democrats are not going to win this election. They're not going to win. Donald Trump is going to win, even without black support, but with black support particularly, I guess. But he's going to win, and he is going to, heads will roll in Washington, D.C. And they are terrified of it. That's why they're trying to get black people scared again. Oh, Lordy, I'm shaking in my chains, Lordy. Ooh, the white man says Trump going to put us all back in slave. Oh, no. But it's not working. At least it's not working with the smart ones. But I want to congratulate you, and I continue to support you. And I wish we had a lot more like you. Believe me, I do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, brother. We appreciate that. I want to check something right quick. Based off of what Tony just said there, I want to check something right quick. So if you'll all indulge me for just a moment, I want to see if I can get something together here. Let me see if I can get something together. I don't want to cause an international incident, but I want to get something together here. There you go. All right. Give me just a moment here, everyone. I think you all will find this to be an interesting thing for you to take a look at here. I think it'd be an interesting thing to take a look at. As you all know, I am on the Biden-Harris mailing list. No, I'm not kidding. No, I'm not joking. I am on the Biden-Harris campaign list. I'm on it. And I received an email from the campaign this morning, as a matter of fact. I received an email from the campaign this morning. I want you all to see what the email was that they sent me. All they're asking for is money, by the way. They're not asking for nothing else. They ain't offering anything. Everything is just money, money, money. That is it. But I want you to see what it said. As you can see here, Biden-Harris campaign, and maybe for those of you who may also be on the campaign list, maybe you got a similar email. Well, I'm talking about the email that says pummel, subject line, pummeled. The subject line is pummeled. And as you can see on the screen, it says $3 one time, Jason. I mean, this is panhandling. That's the donation President Biden is asking you to make today. If that's all you need to hear, we're tracking donations at this link. But what are they talking about? Why are they saying this then? It's okay, well, why are you saying this to me? Well, what they said was, otherwise, let us explain. As you read this, President Biden is getting pummeled with attacks on television and the internet from the far right. They're doing it on Fox News. They're doing it on ads. They're spreading lies and misinformation about the president and about this election. That's why we're asking for your help. Now we know you might be wondering, can one $3 donation really fight back against all that? Yes. The answer is yes. Absolutely yes. Because by the time you read this, lots and lots of people have already contributed their $3. Now they're hoping you'll do the same. Well, if they all gave theirs, there's no reason for you to come to me. That's my stance on that. So, hey, if everybody else already ponied up, why you bugging me? I just wanted you all to know that, by the way, yeah. I get those emails too. In case you all didn't know, Jason, is that real? Yes, it's a real. Yes, it absolutely is. That's an email from them saying he's getting pummeled. And yeah, he should be, because I'm one of the folks putting the boots to him. He should be, because I'm one of the folks putting the boots to him. Joe Biden has black folk locked up in prison for the remainder of their natural lives. Do you understand that? There are black folk, while he's running for president with his biracial delight, there are black folk who are spending the remainder of their years in prison while he's trying to convince all of us that he's reformed. There are black folk out there who he's making sure that everybody else is letting in the door. He's flung the doors open at the border in order to try to bring in illegals to outnumber us so that he never has to make good on anything. And he's trying to make sure that he safeguards the future from us. You damn right I'm on his neck. You damn right. And it's not his fundraising that we're focused on. We're focused on ourselves now, which is something that they don't want to hear, but we are. The reason that 30 years ago Joe Biden was strong, 10 years ago he was strong, today he's weaker than it's ever been. That's not because of me. The sister wanted to thank me, but I humbly have to say, it's not because of me, it's because of all of you. As I've told you 1,000 times before, I'm just the messenger. All of you are the message. So if you were wondering whether or not the billboards and the ads and everything else we did as far as reparations, which is really just telling everybody the issue is economics, if you wondered if it was working, here we are 10 years later. You tell me, don't believe me. Believe the Los Angeles Times, believe Fox News, believe Matt Walsh, believe Joe Biden. You believe them whether or not we're succeeding. They're going to hold out as long as they can. But that's quite all right, because we'll still be right here. You and me and us and we. Every last one of us. And when we're gone, we are going to hand the baton to our children. And they're going to continue it. I've done my part. Now you do yours. I want to thank everybody, including John, who called in here earlier, to the Asian fellow who called us up earlier. Thank you very much for your support. We appreciate that. I did confirm that he did that. So thank you very much for your support here. I want to thank all of you for contributing tonight on PayPal or Venmo, but especially to the crowdfunding. We got a lot of work ahead of us. You've seen, I told you I was going to, don't be surprised if I surprise you. Believe it or not, I'm not done yet. We're just getting started. Stick around. You ain't seen nothing yet. It's been 4 years. I think it was well worth the wait. And just in case you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend. We do this every day. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we are here. And if you have not been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go and check out our groundbreaking, best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., soon to be followed by 8 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, a legitimate library of films that you can pass down to your children, and it will be relevant and elevating for all of them. I want to thank all of you for tuning in tonight's program. Thank you for contributing your support. You didn't have to, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, all of my brothers, all of my sisters from all around the world, remember, eat this, drink this, sleep this, think this, breathe this, feel this, live this, love this, everything that all of us happen to be. Black